Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama.
Thank you, Jishnu, for the Kirtan. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. We are very blessed and very fortunate today to have His Holiness Romapada Swami Maharaj with us. On behalf of Hare Krishna Temple of Austin, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Maharaj for giving his holy association. It's a very small introduction, 2-line introduction. Maharaj didn't like more. So, His Holiness Romapada Swami Maharaj is a Vaishnava monk for over 50 years, a renowned scholar on Eastern thought. Second line, his selfless sacrifices and impressive effort to build, sustain and grow spiritual community in America, Asia and other places around the world. With that, we will welcome Maharaj by loudly chanting one time Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In the last night class, we had gone through the introduction of Ramayana. Now we are going to discuss introduction part 2 and about Valmiki Maharshi. Hare Krishna.
My guess is, like most places, some people are on time, and there's a lot of other people that aren't on time. True here also, right? Yes? Could those of you that are on time come forward? Come forward. Those are in the chairs, you're fine, but so that people can sit behind you comfortably. You know, So we had a nice time yesterday. Large number of new people attending the home gathering. We did an introduction. Here's introduction part 2. Maybe you'll remember, here's a graphic that goes with something that we did yesterday evening. There was a reference from Padma Purana, very similar to a reference from Srimad Bhagavatam, that describes Krishna, Rama, and Nrsimha as the Paravasta forms of the Lord, 3 forms of the Lord that are full in the bhagas of Bhagavan. That is to say, other Vishnu Tattva forms do not have the same fullness of the bhagas of Bhagavan. But according to Padma Purana, these 3 very, very special forms of the Lord are in the category of Paravasta, and specifically, it describes in that verse of Padma Purana that one of those 3 is like original lamp from which the other lamps are lit. Like on Diwali or Govardhan Puja or something. There's a lamp that commonly in temples in India, there's a lamp that's, they keep filling with ghee, and so it just stays lit all the time. And when it's time for Govardhan Puja or Damodar Leela, and we offer Damodar prayers, a lamp to Lord Damodar, the lamp comes off the altar, and from the lamp that's on the altar, so many lamps, and the room is filled with lamps. But one lamp is the origin from which the other lamps are lit. Similarly, so many, how many? Too many to count. As many as there are waves in a river. Try counting the number of waves in a river, and as soon as you count the number of waves, there's more waves. That many forms of the Lord appear in this world, and there's original source of all of them. Krishna, according to Padma Purana, our focus is on Ramachandra because his appearance date comes next week. But it's a topic that we discussed. So bearing in mind the original form is Krishna, from whom other forms are expansions, Ramachandra being one of them. One of the topics that we discussed, I'm repeating a little bit, just review for this Sunday class. We discussed the essential verse, the essence verse of the entire Bhagavad Gita. You know the verse? Sarvadharmam. Do you know the verse? Okay, let's say it together. Sarvadharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam braja aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha yashami masuchaha. So that verse, 1866 Bhagavad Gita, is a good verse to know because it's the essence of the entire Bhagavad Gita. And the essence of the entire Bhagavad Gita is what? The essence is taking full shelter. Mam ekam sharanam. Mam ekam sharanam. So, eka, singular, to Krishna alone, mam ekam sharanam. Surrender to Krishna. And the other verses of Bhagavad Gita are embellishing and augmenting that one verse. To understand the other verses, you need to understand that verse. You understand that verse, it can help you understand all the other verses. It's a key verse. Similarly, Ramayana has one such verse. We discussed it yesterday, and I said I would look up the exact wording. Here's the Sanskrit for it's called Charama Shloka of Ramayana. We touched on it yesterday. This is a repeat. This is a verse spoken by Ramachandra in the context of Vibhishan's surrender. I'm looking around the room. Anybody would like a little background on who is Vibhishan? Or you all know? Okay, fine. Vibhishan was the younger of 4 brothers. His elder brother was Ravana. Second brother, Kumbhakarna. The third sister, Shurpanaka, who had her nose cut and her ears cut. And then there was a younger brother who was virtuous, just the opposite of the other 3. Vibhishan. Vibhishan, by Vedic culture, was subservient to and respectful to his elder brother, his culture. But he knew his brother was bad. So he did what he could, as a good person will do to a bad brother. Try to help his bad brother become good. Didn't work. Especially when it came to Sita being kidnapped by Ravana. So a little history. We didn't discuss this yesterday. But Hanuman. Okay. Hanuman went all the way, 800 miles, big leap, all the way to Lanka. And when he came in for a landing, there was Lankini, the protectress, female, powerful lady. And she slapped Hanuman. Hanuman didn't take it very well. But because she was female, he didn't hurt her. He just punched her mildly, knocked her over. And then she recalled that Brahma said, when a monkey comes to Lanka, it means this is the mark of the beginning of the destruction of the entire Rakshasa dynasty. You may enter. And she went and told Ravana everything, because she was very loyal to Ravana. Many things happened, many things happened, many things happened. One of the things that happened was they captured Hanuman after Hanuman had his nice discussion with Sita and reassured Sita. He showed Sita the ring that Ramachandra had given to him to show Sita that you're representing me. I'm the real thing. I'm representing Ramachandra. Here's his ring. And she recognized the ring. Hanuman volunteered, I'll take you back. She said, no, you fly too fast. I'd fall off. Besides, Ramachandra should come and redeem me. And then Hanuman decided, I'm going to show them. So he started ripping the garden apart and making havoc and took this and that and this and that. They finally captured him. And Hanuman took the opportunity to stand fearlessly before Ravana and order him, release Sita or you're finished. You have no idea what you've done. Ramachandra is all powerful. You will be smashed. Return Sita. No way is he going to return Sita. So he said, kill him. And the administrators said, no, no, no. It's against Vedic rules. You can't kill a messenger. You can punish him. So it was decided the punishment would be, monkeys are very fond of their tail. Wrap oil-soaked cloth around his tail and ignite the cloth. Put his tail on fire. That's punishment for this fellow. Hanuman released himself from the ropes and then burned the whole city of Lanka and left. Left the city in rubbles. Next day, Ravana called his ministers, what to do. I'm seeking your advice. This one said this, that one said that, the other one. Vibhishan said, you should give Sita back. That's what you should do. Because otherwise, you saw with Hanuman, he's just a monkey. What to speak of the person who he's serving? Etc., etc., etc. 2 more times, Vibhishan tried to advise. The next day, Ravana came seeking counsel. He said the same thing. Ravana couldn't take it. He went back to their assembly. He said the same thing. Ravana threatened to kill him. If you weren't my brother, I'd kill you. But you're my brother, so I won't kill you. Vibhishan decided, this is connected with the Charama sloka, what I'm narrating. Vibhishan defected. He had mystic powers. He rose from the assembly along with his 4 ministers because they were also good, like him. And he went to where Ramachandra was to take shelter of Ramachandra. It's a detail, but it's an important detail. He didn't just surrender to Ramachandra. He surrendered to a representative of, I'll say it again. He didn't just surrender to Ramachandra. He surrendered to the representative of, and asked the representative, in this case it was Sugriva, who was his devotee, Sugriva, his devotee. Please convey a message to Ramachandra. I'd like to take shelter of him. Ask him if he would accept me. Sugriva didn't trust him. He said bad things. This fellow, who knows what's up? He knows that Ramachandra's going to smash Ravana. He wants the kingdom himself. He's the 4th brother. Yada, yada, yada. I don't trust him. I don't trust him. Then there was a whole big hubbub. Ramachandra asked other advisors, and other advisors said this and said that, and said the other thing. Hanuman was silent. Finally, Hanuman was asked, said, there's no question. He's already accepted him. And it's just, how he's going to do it, that's his decision, but he's accepted him. And then came this verse, which is very similar to 1866 Bhagavad Gita, Charma Shloka of Ramayana. Here it is in Sanskrit. It's referenced in Chaitanya Charitamrita, as you see across the bottom, Madhya Lila, chapter 22. The reference is from Yuddha Kanda, and the number that's found in Chaitanya Charitamrita is different than in Valmiki Ramayana, and I don't know why. And here's the translation that's found in Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is the essence of the entire Ramayana. And other messages are pursuant to this one message. Ram said publicly here, it is my vow that if one, only one, seriously surrenders unto me, saying, my dear Lord, From this day I am yours, and praise to me for fearlessness, abhaya, in the Sanskrit. I shall immediately award fearlessness to that person, and he will always remain safe from that time on. Now, because this question came up in the discussion yesterday evening, two devotees kindly sent me a slightly different translation with a slightly different reference, and here's the translation and reference. It's from the same, the battle section of the Aranyakanda section. Here's the translation, standard translation. He who seeks refuge in me just once, telling me that I am yours, I shall give him assurance of safety against all types of beings. This abhaya is translated this way. This is my solemn pledge. And then he speaks specifically to Sugriva, chief of the monkeys. Let him either be Vibhishan or even Ravana himself. I've given an assurance of safety to him. Bring him here. So he's Vibhishan is still, according to the description in Ramayana, he had this mystic power. He could travel without an airplane. He just zoomed. He's hovering in air. Bring him here. I'll accept him. He not only accepted him, but they had a coronation ceremony, and he was coronated the king of Lanka with the presumption that Ramchandra would defeat Ravana and that Lanka is going to need a replacement king. And it was Vibhishan. He not only accepted him, became the king. So we began yesterday evening's discussion with the statement that Ramayana is a treatise on surrender. The same message, just embellishing a little bit today. Surrender to Lord Ramachandra, and what's the qualification? Just take shelter of him. From this day I am yours, even once. Now, something that we discussed a little bit yesterday is, in addition to the treatise of surrender, according to the acharyas who are commentators on Ramayana, there's 18 cardinal lessons. There was a PDF. If you didn't receive it, you can complain. You should have received it. And you can go through it. I'm not going to go through it. But the lessons along with the principle of surrender, taking shelter at the lotus feet of Ramachandra. And we also discussed, I'm not going to go through it again, the Dandak forest sages, when Ramachandra was sent by his father into the forest for 14 years, he was greeted by sages who requested Ramachandra to give them protection because he has the capacity to give protection and shelter. Here's the 6 shelter-giving capacities. He's the master, he's affectionate, he's of good character, he is easily approachable, Saubalyam, he has all knowledge, and he has all power to deliver anybody. All of that's review, and now comes new stuff. This is still on the introduction topic. Now, some of you have read Ramayana. Some of you love Ramayana. And I know somebody that confided in me when he sees on the altar Sitaram, Lakshman, Hanuman, he can't go to that temple because he feels so sad. This thing overcomes him because there's so much sadness and sorrow in Ramayana from the get-go. So we're going to touch on it again this evening. But shoka. So the primary reference I'm going to be making in the next 10 minutes is from Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. For those of you not familiar with that, Prabhupada has summarized it in Nectar Devotion. But it's a very important book that teaches about bhakti rasa specifically. So there's rasa, or mellow taste of love, in 5 primary, 7 secondary rasas. Correct? 5 primary, 7 secondary. And one of the secondary ones is shoka. Well, it's one of the sthai bhavas. So it gets a little technical, and I'm not going to go too much technical with you. But there's details. So the shoka, or an emotion, has different translations: suffering, sorrow, lamentation. Those of you that like Ramayana, and those of you that don't know so much about Ramayana, can learn just now a little bit about Ramayana. Towards the very beginning of Ramayana, which we're going to hear this evening, Narada Muni pays a visit to the ashram of Valmiki. Narada Muni pays a visit to the ashram of Valmiki. Valmiki takes the opportunity to ask questions of Narada Muni. Certain questions of who's a great personality in different categories. And Narada Muni gives a summary of the entire Ramayana in 74 verses. The beginning of Valmiki Ramayana. And after giving this little summary, he gives some instructions to meditate on those messages of the 74 verses of Ramayana. There's other things that were discussed we'll hear this evening. For one muhurta, what's a muhurta? Who knows what a muhurta is? What's a muhurta? Period of time. 48 minutes. So most of us know about Brahma Muhurta, right? What's Brahma Muhurta? It's the best time for spiritual activity. It's 2 muhurtas before the sun rises. 2 times 48. What's that? 96. Is that right? 2 times 48 is 96. So before the sun rises, for 96 minutes, starting with Brahma Muhurta, that's the best time for anything spiritual. For 2 muhurtas. So for 1 muhurta, for 48 minutes, he meditated on what he heard from Narada. And then what happened? Valmiki, went with his disciple, Bharadraj Muni, to the river to do his morning duties. And when he went to the river to do his morning duties, he saw something that was appalling. He saw a male and a female heron mating, and when they were at the peak of their passion, he saw an arrow of a hunter pierce the body of one of the birds. He was shocked. And he saw the hunter, and he uttered the following verse, filled with shoka. "Oh, hunter, because you have killed the male bird and separated it from its companion when they are approaching the peak of their passion, you will be condemned for all ages to come. May you never find peace of mind for endless years." Intense. According to the commentators, there's a certain meter, a celebrated meter called Anushtup. So each line has 32 syllables. It's the same Anushtup that's many, not all, many of the verses of Bhagavad Gita. Like Sarvadharmam Parityaj, that's Anushtup. Mamekam Sharanam, 32 syllables. There's a certain easily followed meter. It was unusual at the time, but it came out. And then he filled him with grief. He was shocked. He's a sage. He doesn't get disturbed by stuff. He not only got disturbed, he uttered this curse. It is said, note at the very bottom, it's the Mangala Charana verse. Mangala Charana. This verse is very important, much like the verse that we saw, the Charma Shloka about Ram saying, I'll give shelter to anyone. This verse is the mood of Ramayana, where it's sorrow and sorrow and sorrow and more sorrow and more sorrow and more sorrow. Like, who wants to read a book like that? So let's find out what Rupa Goswami has to say about all of this, from Bhakti Rasamrita to Sindhu. I won't take too long, but it's an educational background to understand why this is in Ramayana. So in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, there's Sadhana Bhakti, Bhava Bhakti, and Prema Bhakti. 1, 2, 3. And in the Bhava Bhakti stage, there's the fifth wave, where it's describing Sthayi Bhava. Sthayi means steady. Bhava. And there's primary and there's secondary. The secondary is called Gona. Sthayi Bhava. And secondary Gona, secondary Sthayi Bhava. And here's a list. Look at this. There's 7 on the list. Look at number 4. It's discussed by Rupa Goswami. It's a type of secondary steady ecstasy. Now, sorrow doesn't sound like an ecstasy. Is sorrow an ecstasy? Sorrow is a sorrow. However, within Krishna is everything. We'll say it negatively. There's nothing that exists that's not within Krishna. We'll say it another way. There's 2 things. There's Krishna, and there's Krishnas, and there's not a third thing. So in this realm is sorrow that's a reflection of what's in the spiritual realm, because as above, so below. But this is just a reflection of the real thing. And the real thing isn't the sorrow that we know. We know the reflection. The sorrow that is sad. And then the transcendental is not sad. That's the essence of what the next 6 minutes is going to be. Described in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Rati is another term in this section. It's the suffering caused by Shokarati. And the statement of Rupa Goswami and the commentators is, it's only apparent that the suffering is only apparent. That is to say, it's an ecstasy called shoka. Wait a minute. Shoka means misery or suffering. How can that be an ecstasy? The real thing, so we'll find out. Now from Sthayi Bhavas comes rasas. As we know, there's 5 primary rasas and 7 secondary rasas. Look, here's the list. Number 4 is karuna. Karuna means compassion. Karuna means compassion. And that's Ramachandra. He is the Lord of Karuna Rasa. But it comes out like suffering. From another reference from the same Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, here's the presiding deities of the 5 primary and the 7 secondary rasas. Note, I'm not going to go through the whole list. Ramachandra is the presiding deity of Karuna. And at the bottom is Jiva Goswami's commentary. Rama represents Karuna Rasa because of his lamentation at losing Sita. Wait a minute. That's sad. Ram lost Sita. That's sad. She was kidnapped by a bad guy who can kill Jatayu and so many things. How's that Karuna? Let's find out some more. The way that it works is if you look through the lens of your material experience, it doesn't work. If you look through the lens of there's the spiritual realm where everything is ecstasy and varieties of ecstasy, direct and indirect, or primary and secondary. And there's this Karuna that's primary, but when Ramachandra is losing Sita, he regains Sita, because how is it possible? We'll hear in a moment. Is it possible? The answer is no. Is it possible for sunshine to be separated from the sun? Is there such a thing? I mean, there can be clouds in the sky. Supposedly, tomorrow there's going to be a solar eclipse, but it's supposed to be rainy, so we're not going to see it. Does that mean there's not a solar eclipse? No. Or at night, the sun sets. It means some sun stopped existing, or the sunshine is disconnected from the sun. No. They're inseparable. Is it possible for Sita to be separated from Ram? No. Then what happened? It was a Leela. What kind of a Leela? A Leela to increase the hankering of Sita for Ram and Ram for Sita. In separation, love becomes intensified. It's just a science of rasa. So Karuna rasa was his emotion of feeling lamentation, shoka, feeling a feeling of the loss of Sita, and then regaining Sita. If you don't understand rasa, you won't understand lots of things about transcendental life. It just looks like sadness, and that's it. I don't want to read this book. Or like this person, I don't want to see the deities. It makes me sad. So here's further commentary, and I'm going to move on. Here's from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, 7 specific emotions: humor, astonishment, fortitude, lamentation, anger, fear, disgust, or hatred. Those are emotions in relation to the source of everything. They're ecstasies. Shokarati is defined in this section. Intense pain in the heart arising from separation from a dear one, with the thoughts that the beloved has perished, is called shoka, or lamentation. In this state, wailing, falling on the ground, heavy breathing, drying of the mouth, and confusion manifest. Shoka has the same relation to shokarati as hasa to hasirati. So hasa is humor. That's nice. Humor's nice. But shoka is also nice. It's the anticipation of meeting when there's separation. Here's further description of the same point. The appearance of bhavas, which involve sorrow, arise through thinking that one will not attain Krishna or Ramachandra. However, the cause of that sorrow is a previous experience of Krishna. It is certain that the devotee's aspiration will be fulfilled, and they will attain him. After attaining the Lord, in order to remove selfish thoughts that the Lord belongs to oneself, which may spring from that attainment, and in order to nourish the joy of attaining the Lord, Ishada, which means lamentation or disappointment, and other sorrowful emotions appear as part of that bliss. Attaining the association of that person that you aspire for. Like, the gopis separated from Krishna, for example. Or not only Sita, but all the associates of Ram separated from Ram and Sita being in a disturbed state. They want to see them united again. Such emotions have the appearance of sorrow, but are not really sorrow, as we know it at least. This state of happiness and sorrow in the devotee appear like happiness and distress which arise from the material gunas in the non-devotee. However, this state of happiness and sorrow is not the same. There's many texts. I'm just going to go forward with this. Anyway, it says the same thing. It's a summary rather than read all of this. There are events from Valmiki seeing this arrow pierce the body of a krancha bird or a crane and feeling sorrow and being really confused. Where did that emotion come from? We'll hear about it this evening. Lord Brahma said, I inspired Saraswati to have those words come from your mouth. Please meditate on this transcendental emotion of yours, spoken by Saraswati through your mouth, because it will be the essence of your composition of the entire Ramayana. And then many other things were spoken by Brahma. It's an important message, an important mood, but it should be understood different than a hunter shooting an arrow over a mating bird. It's the personality of Godhead experiencing transcendental emotion. That's Ramayana. And not only he, but Dasarath and Kaushalya and you name it. There isn't anybody that didn't experience a transcendental emotion of the fact that Ramachandra had to be banished from Ayodhya for 14 years, etc. The news hit the hearts of everybody. Sorrow and sorrow and sorrow and sorrow, and Dasarath died of sorrow. And then they're in the forest, and Sita got kidnapped, and Jatayu got killed, and sorrow and sorrow. And so, but it's an ecstasy. It doesn't look like an ecstasy. It doesn't, by material, if you don't have a transcendental attachment to Ramachandra, it's just sad. Too much. But as attachment to the personality of Godhead, Ramachandra awakens, then it's a transcendental rasa, because it's going to work out well in the end, because the sun can't be separated from sunshine. Here's a verse from a series of verses spoken by Hanuman from the 5th canto Bhagavatam. The painting is the painting of Ramchandra finally destroying Ravana with a special arrow, etc., 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 during the battle in Lanka. Here's Hanuman's verse. There's two of them. It was ordained that Ravana, chief of the Rakshasas, could not be killed by anyone but a man. And for this reason, Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appeared in the form of a human being. Lord Ramachandra's mission, however, was not only to kill Ravana, but also to teach mortal beings that material happiness centered around sex life or centered around one's wife is the cause of many miseries. He, Ramachandra, is the self-sufficient Supreme Personality of Godhead, and nothing is lamentable for him, no shoka. Transcendental ecstasy only. Therefore, why else could he be subjected to tribulations by the kidnapping of Mother Sita? How could the sun shine be separated from the sun? It's a pastime to instruct. That's Hanuman. No worries for Hanuman. No worries for Hanuman. No worries for a transcendentalist, supposing we're not transcendentalists. We don't like it. That was verse number 5. Hanuman is speaking these verses in Kim Purusha Varsha. I won't do a Vedic cosmology lesson with you right now because it would take too long. But Hanuman is still present in the material creation because Ramchandra asked him to remain behind when he returned to the spiritual world and said, as long as the mountains exist and the sun exists, as long as the creation exists, sing my glories. So he's doing that in Kim Purusha Varsha. Here's the next verse. Since Lord Ramachandra is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudev, he is not attached to anything in this material world. He is the most beloved super soul of all self-realized souls, and he is their very intimate friend. He is full of all opulences, therefore he could not possibly have suffered because of separation from his wife. Nor could he have given up his wife. There's a Leela where he did. And Lakshman, there's a Leela where he did. And if we had more time, I'd tell the Leela. Maybe at the end when we have questions, I'll tell the Leela. He gave up Lakshman. Not possible, according to Hanuman. Not possible. To give up either would have been absolutely impossible. But it's a Leela. So if it's a Leela, did it happen or did it not happen? It's a pastime of Lord Ramachandra. But to understand the pastimes properly, we have to understand him and his teaching of lessons and his tasting of transcendental rasa in relationships with his loving devotees. So behind the story, the narration of Ramayana, there's rasa. That's the important thing. Now here's a nice painting of one of the foremost of all commentators on Ramayana named Govindaraja. As you see from his tilak, he has Sri Vaishnava tilak. There are many commentators from Sri Vaishnava line. He's the foremost. And he comments on the Shoka Rati also. 2 verses summarize the entire Ramayana. Here's one of them. We heard this already. O hunter, because you have killed the male bird and separated from its companion, when they were approaching the peak of their passion, you will be condemned for all ages. Let all inauspiciousness befall you. Similar, different, but similar mood. What's that? Shokarati mood. It's when Ravana was killed and Mandodari comes to see him lying on the battlefield dead. On seeing her husband Ravana, who was the twice born of Vishrava, whose crown was decorated with red crest jewels, who possessed the winged aircraft Pushpaka, who was intoxicated by the boons of Lord Brahma and by the beauty of Sita Devi, who was surrounded by Indrajit, Vibhishan, Kumbhakarna, and others in his days of military success, and who is now slain on the ground with limbs covered by blood, Mandodari intensely lamented with piteous utterances due to separation. So Govindaraja is pointing out these two highlighting points of shoka that just mark Ramayana. So that's the introduction, part 2. And now we're ready for just a little bit on Valmiki, who is the author of Ramayana, or one of the Ramayanas. What do I mean by one of the Ramayanas? Huh? Yes and no. Yes. But there's others. There's others. So let me go forward. In response to your enthusiasm, one of the documents that you were supposed to have received was a description of 4, and there's more than 4 principal histories of who was Valmiki. Now, last night, we heard that there are different descriptions of Ramayana. One description is found in Padma Purana, another description is found in Vishnu Dharmotara, who is Ramachandra and his 3 brothers. Commentator Baladev Vidyabhusan says there are different days of Brahma, Kalpa Veda, different days of Brahma. A Kalpa is a day of Brahma. So Kalpa Veda, on different days, there's variations on the theme of. So it depends on which day of Brahma we're talking about, right? I'm responding to your enthusiasm to share Valmiki was the first. Depends on which day of Brahma we're talking about. Okay, so there's a nice document. If you didn't get it, you can speak to somebody to get a copy of that nice document that gives 4 different versions of more than 4 of who was Valmiki before he began composing Ramayana. The name Valmiki means he who sprang from an anthill. Here's a description found in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, you can see on the screen, Varuna is the 9th son of Kashyapa and Aditi. So Kashyapa, here's a little picture on the left. Kashyapa was one of the sons of Marichi, who was a direct son of Lord Brahma. So Kashyapa was given 13 daughters of Daksha in marriage. 13 wives. Shoo. And one of those was Aditi. And one of the sons, the 9th son of Aditi, was Varuna. And you see in the genealogy below, he had a wife, and 2 of those wives, 2 of the children from that wife, were Bhrigu and Valmiki. So Valmiki was a son of Varuna. Got it? According to 6th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam. There's some detail, so it might be, I'll just mention it. Sridhar Swami, who is Sridhar Swami? He is the original commentator on the entire Srimad Bhagavatam, and he writes as follows. Both Bhrigu and Valmiki were super excellent Vaishnavas, so they're extraordinary sons of Varuna. And another son of Varuna was Vishishta. Vishishta was an extraordinary Vaishnava. He was Brahman realized, Brahmana, so he isn't in the same category, but he's the son of Varuna. According to Valmiki Ramayana, Uttarakhanda, he says, right in Valmiki Ramayana, I'm the 10th son of Varuna. Earlier in Uttarakhanda, he says that he was, the son of Varuna. Thus was sung the Ramayana by the mighty son of Varuna, Valmiki. And similarly in Uttarakhanda, Valmiki states explicitly in the discussion about Ramachandra that he lived a pure life, never committed any sin. There he is. There's Govindaraja again. And according to Govindaraja, this means this is Valmiki Ramayana as the source. The very first verse, in his commentary on the very first verse, he writes, all through the countless years, trees and shrubs rang around him, while an immense anthill arose on all sides, completely concealing him from view. Later on, Varuna, the lord of the waters, sent down heavy rains which dissolved the strange tenement. Tenement means the anthill that was surrounding this person underneath the anthill. And when the rains came down, lo and behold, there was Valmiki. And thus, the son of Valmiki, the son of Varuna, he was already inside the anthill. Rain came down, so he's the son of Varuna. That's the explanation of Govindaraj. Now, a very common explanation that many of you have heard, I heard, and it's in the document that you should have received. There's very similar reference in Brahmanda Purana and Skanda Purana that goes as follows. In the forest, there was a dacoit. There you see him with a sword raised. And when he was in the forest, one fine day, Narada Muni passed through the forest, and the dacoit wanted to rob Narada Muni. No, Narada Muni didn't get ruffled. He asked the dacoit, before you do anything detrimental, I only have this veena, it's not too valuable for you. But you have this profession of robbing people. And according to this description, he was also, besides a robber, he was a hunter. And as a hunter, he was half killing animals. And Narada stopped him and said, why are you half killing animals? He said, I learned it from my father. And it's the way that I maintain myself. I kill animals. And I enjoy half killing animals. Narada said, if you half kill animals, they'll suffer. Did you ever think of that? So rather than half killing them, why don't you full kill them? Which was a strange thing to say. But, he couldn't tell him, don't kill. So we said, well, really, I never thought about they have to suffer. And not only they have to suffer, but you'll have to suffer. You cause that suffering for others, you'll have to suffer. I said, really? Well, I this is my means of livelihood. I maintain my family. So then he gave some instruction to the hunter, Ratnakar, and said, you know what, you've accumulated so much trouble. Why don't you go ask the family that you have been maintaining through this profession of yours of hunting and see if they're willing to share in the karma that you're going to accrue for half killing animals. So he went back and asked his family, and are you willing to accept your share of my karma for maintaining the family? And their response was, no way. You find another way to maintain us, that's okay, but we're not going to take the karma for what you do. And Ratnakar didn't know what to do, so he went back to Narada. What should I do? What should I do? And Narada said, don't worry. You take shelter of me and I'll see that you're maintained. Anyway, it's a nice history. And he then, to improve himself from that karma, chant Ram's name. Well, the man was so sinful he couldn't chant Ram's name. So Narada was very clever. He said, instead of chanting Rama, you chant Mara. You know that? Mara. Mara means death. Mara means death. Just chant death. Mara, 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 Mara. So he chanted Mara, and as he chanted Mara, it became Rama. Mara, 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 Rama, 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 Rama. And it was like that for a long time. And it's so long that an anthill grew up around him. And Narada came back, where's my disciple, Ratnakar? He heard this sound coming from this anthill. So he sprinkled holy water on the anthill and gave him the name Valmiki. Now that's a different version than the Bhagavatam version, where it was rain or water descending from Varuna. But it's a different Purana, in a different day of Brahma, etc. Now, and I'm almost done. That's good news. Another form that's in the document that you should have received. If you didn't, you can ask for one, you'll get one, is Ananda Ramayana. Ananda Ramayana is a conversation between Uma and Lord Shiva, where he's narrating the story of Ramayana to Uma. And in that exchange, it's very lengthy, and I'm not going to go into it because it can get confusing. It's similar, but different from Valmiki was previously a hunter. And you can read it at your leisure. The main message, because we're going on from, the story of Valmiki to this evening, here the Valmiki Ramayana, of, how the exchange between Narada Muni visiting the ashram of Valmiki, etc., 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 and how Ramayana became manifest through that exchange between Narada and Valmiki. There's a whole other world going on in the room here. Okay. One of the things I'm hoping from the time I spend with all of you in Austin during these days of discussions on personalities of Ramayana is that you take an interest in investing some time between now and the appearance day of Ramachandra and read and discuss, inquire, become connected with Lord Ramachandra because he's very merciful. And we'll hear some benedictions from Narada Muni about just hearing the message of Ramayana is so beneficial. Builds virtue in one's own character just by reading Ramayana. And attraction for transcendence as opposed to the limited and temporary. Most of which, we don't know anything other than limited and temporary. But there's another reality that we're part of, but it's forgotten. So reading Ramayana will help appreciate that higher reality and the life of virtue. That's it. Let's see if there's some discussion. Yes.
Hare Krishna, thank you for the vivid descriptions of Ramayana. I had one question regarding the chanting of Rama's name.
Okay.
So you mentioned how Valmiki previously was not able to chant the Rama because he was too sinful. But shouldn't Krishna's name or Rama's name be chanted by anyone? How is it such that only certain people are able to chant Rama's name?
Well, the explanation is unique because, reason says if you can say Mara, why you can't say Rama? Just flip the syllables around. But he was so sinful, death I could say. But Rama I can't say. So it's unique. He was so sinful. That's why or how it happened. And at least the way the narration goes. So Narada being clever, no problem. Mara. Now, the A is long. Rama is not Mara. It's a detail.
At that time, did he have the intention of wanting to say Rama's name?
No.
No, at all.
No. He by this time, he has some faith in Narada. He's inquiring from Narada, what should I do? What should I do? My family isn't willing to take the reaction. You told me there's reaction. They're suffering, and I'm going to have to suffer. Then they won't accept the suffering, so it's all in my head, and I'm doing it for them. So what should I do? What should I do? So he had faith. And Narada was a good instructor. And Narada said, chant Rama, I can't. It won't come out my mouth. So he had faith in Narada. And Narada's clever. So it's just a detail of how it worked out the way. And to chant Mara for as long as he chanted, so an anthill will grow up around your body. And when ants bite, it hurts. When insects bite, you can just don't ignore it. Ouch. He's devoured his body, with just bones left. And that's pretty intense. Real intense. So the whole situation is unique. Valmiki is also unique. Anything else?
Hare Krishna. One question actually. The story of hunter killing animals mercilessly and Narada is coming and protecting is also happening in Murugari's story too.
Yes.
Is there any relation?
No, it's just similar. That's all. Magari and the hunter, similar. The outcome is different. The hunter just became a nice man, became a Vaishnava. He did become Valmiki. You're looking puzzled. Did you understand the question? No. Over here, there's another story. And the other story is Magari the hunter. and Magari the hunter was hunting. And there's similarities and differences. But Narada said, you know, this is the don't have kill story. Kill completely because they suffer. And then he was the same, you know, they suffer, you're going to have to suffer. Ask your family. This is just combining the two stories. I merged them together. I shouldn't have merged them together. But there's another hunter, and the hunter then was advised by Narada, don't worry, I'll maintain you. You just take a tulsi plant, chant the holy name by your tulsi plant, and I'll see that you're maintained. Now, how's Narada going to see that a householder with his wife is going to be maintained? Well, because he became a saintly person, the people from the village came out and gave him contributions that maintained him. Right? And then one time Narada came with his dear friend Angira Muni. And when they came forward, the hunter came running but was trying to avoid stepping on the ants. The man who you know that story? I'm asking you. No, this young man that's got his eyes squinted like, what are you talking about? You know that story? Okay. Okay, so is it really, the question was, are they similar but different? Yes, similar but different. In one case, the hunter became a Vaishnava. In the other case, the hunter became an anthill. And then Valmiki. But similar, but different. That was the question. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Is Vairagya is one of the 12 rasas, or it's just outcome of one of the rasas?
Say it again.
Vairagya.
Vairagya. It's not one of the 12 rasas.
So it's just outcome of any other rasa.
It's an outcome of bhakti. Jnana Vairagya, knowledge and detachment are the outcome of bhakti. But bhakti has divisions of primary, secondary, rasa. It's a different topic under the banner of bhakti. Okay. Oh, there's several hands over here. Look at this. I pulled over there. I didn't see you all.
Hare Krishna. So, Rama is a great person with values.
Yes.
So, one way is Rama is fight with Ravana and bring back his wife. And another way, Rama left Sita in the forest. So,
yeah.
Still, he is described as a great values. So, what values?
Maryada Purushottama specifically.
Yeah. So, what values we need most? What values we need to be considered?
Your question was answered in an hour-and-a-half class, which is all recorded on YouTube. And to summarize an hour-and-a-half class in 3 minutes would be a little challenging.
I listen.
But it was given in Austin. And Maryada Purushottama, how can we call him Maryada Purushottama when he did what someone would never do?
Okay, I will listen separately.
Okay. There was 8 reasons.
Oh.
So it's detailed, layered.
Hare Krishna. In one of the stories, he was chanting.
Your voice is really soft. Go ahead, try again.
Hare Krishna. In one of the stories, he was chanting Mara. So if he kept chanting death, then wouldn't he die because he kept chanting death? So basically, he was wishing for death. Or
I got about 20% of what she said. What did you get? What she said?
Yes, speaking about the Lord's name, when we actually get closer to the Lord, because he is not having intention of chanting Ram's name, rather he is chanting Mara, 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 so whether he's not getting close to death.
That was your question? Wow. Well, he didn't get closer to death because of the blessing of Narada. The blessing of Narada was a trick. The trick was, okay, you can't say Rama, let's do something you can do. And the trick was, by saying it and saying it with faith in Narada, by saying it again and saying it again and say it again and say it again, it get flipped around. And then the meditation wasn't Mara, the meditation was Rama. It was Narada's trick. But the blessing of Narada, it didn't get closer to death, it got closer to Rama by Narada's blessing. It's a trick, but blessing. Nice question. Thank you.
Yeah, and just going back to the where you say that Rama represents the Karuna Rasa, and
He's the Lord of. He's not representing. He's the Lord of.
and in that, because of the lamentation of losing and regaining Sita, could we synonymously say that we are supposed to feel this separation and also regaining, aspiring to get closer to Krishna?
Yes, yes. I mean, he's not supposed to. That's ideal. But by sound vibration, by becoming immersed in Ramayana, that will eventually come. Or in relation to Krishna, that will eventually come. Because there's sadnesses in Krishna's pastimes. Obviously, Krishna's leaving Vrindavan. That's a sadness. Poor residents of Vrindavan. He made them all completely attached to him, and then he left. And they're wanting his association. Now the good news is he returned. Do you know that he returned? Here's what happened. He didn't return for practical reasons. There's rasa reasons, but for practical reasons, he considered, if I return to Vrindavan, then those who are my enemies, they'll know I have attachment to the residents of Vrindavan. They'll go harass the residents of Vrindavan. So I have to get rid of all my enemies first. So when he finished Dantavakra, the last of the demons out there, it was just at the gate of Mathura that he went to Vrindavan. And he gave his association to the Brajavasis in full, with no hindrance. Gopal Champu. It's not in the Bhagavatam. It's in Gopal Champu. Back here, there are some hands. No. Anything in the room? Over here.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. As tomorrow is the solar eclipse, I have a quick question about the auspiciousness.
About the which?
About the auspiciousness of the solar eclipse.
Oh, okay.
I've heard from many classes that I've attended that Krishna was born when all the planets were aligned.
Yeah.
And everyone, when I've been asking my parents, is the solar eclipse inauspicious? They said yes. But that made me realize that why was Krishna born on an inauspicious day?
Why was Krishna born?
As when the planets were aligned, since that's a type of eclipse.
No, alignment doesn't mean eclipse. Eclipse doesn't mean alignment. There's a particular type of alignment that creates an eclipse. But to say the word alignment doesn't mean eclipse. Oh. Alignment means auspicious, 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 alignment of auspiciousness. That's when he appeared. That kind of an alignment. Does that answer your question? Now, I'm not an astrologer, but there is somebody around that's an astrologer. You know who that somebody is, right? Shri Radha Govinda. Has she been here yet? Shri Radha Govinda Dasi is an astrologer, and she can answer your question much more definitively. Your head will spin when you hear her answer. But the alignment just means auspiciousness aligned with auspiciousness, aligned with auspiciousness. Okay, that's it. Srila Prabhupada ki. Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj, for wonderful lecture. Devotees, please move on to the temple hall. We'll have a Aarti and Kirtan.